Alright there guys, and welcome back to another video. It's actually been quite a while since I last recorded a video of any kind. You wouldn't know that considering this is going up just a week after my last video. But yeah, I've not recorded a video in maybe over a month. And to return to finally recording a video again, we are going to be looking at the anime Uzamaki that started airing at the beginning of October. This show is not only my first anime video in a little while, this is also my first, the 150th video that is going into my anime playlist here on the channel. My biggest playlist I have on the channel. This will be video number 150 going into it. So, Uzamaki, which is Japanese for spiral, was created by the most famous horror mangaka of them all, Junji Ito. You've probably heard his name before. And there was a lot of hype going into this because it was... Thing is, with Junji Ito, with him being the most famous horror mangaka of all time, his work when it gets adapted from manga to anime, it always has a lot of pressure on it because people have said that his manga just does not translate to anime very well at all. But Uzumaki might just have changed that. So, let's get into it. The show is in black and white. That's the first important thing you'll notice. The entire show does not have any colour in it whatsoever. It is entirely in black and white, just like the manga. And it's been described as like truly a manga being brought to life. And the animation in the first episode of the show was incredible. But unfortunately, the next 2 episodes, and probably another 3 to 4, depending on how many more have been released by the time this video goes up, as we're only going to be covering the first 3 episodes of the show in this video. So, the show being in all black and white makes it feel like the manga, but the first episode especially had some of the best animation that we've ever seen. It genuinely looks like the manga has actually come to life, just like people are describing it. So it starts with our main character, who's a girl called Kire, and she thinks that she's just going to be living her normal day-to-day life, but her friend Shuichi and his father. So Shuichi's father, I think Shuichi might be Kire's boyfriend, I think. Friend or boyfriend, definitely one of the two. His dad is like obsessed with spirals. I mean, the thumbnail itself of this video is a spiral straight out of the show. He becomes like hyper, like mega obsessed with spirals. Think of autism hyperfixation, and then crank that up to 11. That's basically how Shuichi's dad feels about spirals. And it gets so bad to the point where he literally turns his own body into a spiral. He gets in this like circular tub, and he literally crushes his own body into the shape of a spiral, which in turn breaks every single bone in his body and kills him. And this ends up making Shuichi's mother go a bit insane, shall we say. She ends up being taken to hospital, and she literally sees spirals everywhere. She can't look anywhere without seeing a spiral somewhere. And the sky becomes one ginormous spiral itself. And it leads to all sorts of crazy events happening around the city. Many people end up in hospital because they've been attacked by spiral-looking things. Kire's good friend Uzamaki ends up being a victim to the spirals because as the first episode progresses, she has this little she has a little spiral mark on up here on her forehead, and throughout the episode as it progresses, the spiral gets bigger and bigger, and then that really famous image that you've probably seen from Uzumaki of like her head being half open. Once it gets to the point of you can literally see halfway inside her own head, the spiral actually engulfs her entire body completely. Which pretty much kills her on impact. That was how the first episode went, just to give you a bit of a taster for what we've got to come. Now, the second episode and onwards, there was a huge drop in animation quality. Personally, I didn't quite see it myself. I didn't see that much of a drop-off in quality at all. But that's probably because I don't quite know what exactly I'm looking for that makes the difference in animation quality look different. If we're not going from Dragon Ball Super Episode 5, if we're not going into that bad quality of animation, I'm likely not going to see it. So the second episode, a big theme of this one is snails. Because usually in animation, snails have a spiral pattern on their shells, don't they? Take Gary from SpongeBob being the most obvious example of that. So throughout the second episode, some of the characters that go to the same school as Kire literally turn into snails. Think another SpongeBob reference. Think of that. Remember the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick go jellyfishing for the weekend, and SpongeBob asks Squidward to look after Gary, but then he just completely forgets to do it. So the vet gives SpongeBob that snail pellet, whatever the thing it was that he had to inject Gary with. But SpongeBob said he said he was like allergic or something. He couldn't do it, so Squidward tried to do it and ended up doing it to SpongeBob, and then SpongeBob then turned into a snail later on, and then Squidward also ends up turning into a snail at the end of the episode. It's a bit like that, but way more disturbing. There's a reason I've called this video a spiral of disturbance. This is by far the most disturbing anime I've ever watched. And that's a good thing, because that's the point. I'm pretty sure that's what Junji Ito was going for. He was going for an extremely disturbing looking story. All of his stories have disturbing imagery, but this one definitely has quite a lot of it. And the only other thing in the second episode that's worth of note is there's this lighthouse that 4 of these kids run into, and Kirei chases after them, so they start running. She starts running after them, but the lighthouse has a spiral staircase, because of course it does. But the staircase itself seems that it goes on forever. A bit like the never-ending staircase from Mario 64. A little bit that like that, but a spiral staircase version. It doesn't go on forever. It does have an end point at the top. When the kids get up there, they then get quite scared because the lighthouse gets set on fire. So Kirei and the 4 kids all start running back down the lighthouse to try and get out of it, but they don't manage to get out of it in time before it starts burning and they all get injured. Now then, episode 3. Episode 3 is all about mosquitoes. Basically, we get told in the show that female mosquitoes are significantly more aggressive than male mosquitoes. And in the hospital where Kirei is after her burn injuries from the lighthouse, she ends up being chased by a bunch of pregnant women because they had all been infected with whatever was making with some sort of mosquito virus. But luckily for Kirei, using bug repellent on just like how it works on actual mosquitoes, she used the same exact bug repellent on the pregnant women, and it made them run away. But then there were swarms of mosquitoes all around the city that turned into their own little mosquito tornadoes that literally grabbed hold of people, pulled them into the sky, and then dropped them back down onto the ground. Killing them, you'd think it would killing them instantly. Yeah, it doesn't do that, because the place where Kirei lives is mental, and everyone there seems to also be mental. Shuichi's mom is not taking this well. She sees spirals everywhere she looks. She's cut all of her hair off because that was another thing. Kirei also had to do that in the second episode. She cut so much of her hair off because her hair was because her hair was fairly long, it started curling up into spirals and then literally attacking people. So she cut a lot of it off. Whereas Shuichi's mom literally cuts all of her hair off so she's bald. She even cuts off the end of her fingers. This part. Because she could see spiral patterns in this part of her finger. So she cut all of those parts of her fingers off, which is pretty disturbing itself. And then she finds out that there are little spiral patterns just inside of her ear, which also makes her go a bit more crazy. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, they decide to give us one more little disturbing imagery where there's a guy whose entire bottom half is gone and he has a spring. The top half of his body is literally on top of a spring, and he's jumping around until the spring falls out from under him and he can't move anymore. But safe to say, Uzamaki is an extremely disturbing show, which is a good thing because that was probably the idea. It being in black and white instead of being in colour absolutely works to its advantage. And I'm pretty intrigued to what other disturbing scenes we're going to see from here on out. So, if you guys have enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and until we meet again, farewell.